A poor student shelters a homeless beggar in her tiny dorm room, unaware he's a billionaire. But on the night she draped her only hoodie over his shivering shoulders and whispered, "Please don't die out here." She never imagined the quiet stranger she pulled out of the freezing rain would soon pull her into a world she had no place in, one built on power, secrets, and an identity he was terrified to reveal. She was the poor student barely breathing through life. He was the homeless beggar no one looked at twice. But something in his tired eyes stirred a tenderness in her heart she couldn't explain. Yet as she helped him, feeding him, sheltering him, giving him warmth, she never questioned why a beggar spoke with such calm dignity, why his hands, though trembling, felt like someone who once held powerful things, or why his silence carried the weight of a man who had fallen from a very high place. But if the poor student knew the truth, if she knew the man sleeping on her dorm room floor was a billionaire hiding from a brutal betrayal, would she still open her door? And when the truth finally comes for them both, what will happen to the kindness that brought them together? And the bond neither of them saw coming. Rain fell over Brookside University like shards of ice, stinging the skin, sinking into clothes, swallowing sound. Most students hurried across the courtyard, arms wrapped around themselves, hoods pulled low, feet splashing through puddles. But Leah Dawson didn't rush home. She never did. Her steps were slow, tired, worn down from the day. Her shift at the library had stretched longer than planned, and her stomach growled from skipping lunch to save money for the week. Her scholarship was hanging by a thread, her grades slipping under the weight of exhaustion, and her dorm room felt more like a storage closet with a mattress than a place a human should live. Still, she walked with that stubborn softness in her chest, the part of her that survived childhood poverty, foster homes, days when dinner was a luxury, the part that learned to see people others ignored, the part that recognized pain even when disguised. As she rounded the corner behind the campus gym, she saw him again, the homeless man, mid-30 seconds, shoulders hunched, clothes ripped, damp, clinging to him in the cold. Tonight, he wasn't sitting upright like usual. He was curled against the wall, knees pulled into his chest, shivering violently as rain poured over him. Something inside her chest cracked clean open. It wasn't just pity, it was recognition. She knew what it felt like to be invisible. "Hey," she whispered, dropping to her knees beside him. "You can't stay out here in this cold. You'll die." His eyes fluttered open, dark, gentle, exhausted. She saw something deeper in them. Something that didn't match the torn clothes or trembling hands. Something haunted. Something once powerful. But she didn't know that. Not yet. Foreshadowing flickered beneath the surface like lightning behind storm clouds. She pulled off her oversized hoodie, her only one, and draped it over him. Rain instantly soaked through her shirt, but she didn't care. "My name is Leah," she said softly. His lips parted slowly, like speaking cost him effort. "My name is Daniel." It was the first time she'd ever heard his voice. Warm, polite, controlled. Too controlled for a man living on the streets. But she didn't question it. Her compassion ran deeper than her curiosity. "Come with me," she said. "Please." He hesitated. She saw fear flicker across his face, not fear of her, but fear of accepting help, fear of stepping into someone's life. Still, he nodded. A silent surrender. Her dorm room was embarrassingly small. One narrow bed pressed against the wall. A rickety desk. A mini fridge buzzing like a dying insect. Piles of textbooks she could barely afford, stacked beside a lamp, missing its shade. She pushed everything aside, grabbed her last clean blanket, and laid it on the floor. "You can stay here until the rain stops," she said, her voice soft, her cheeks flushing with a kindness she never apologized for. Daniel stepped inside like he was entering a sacred place, like he didn't deserve a roof, like he was afraid to breathe. His eyes scanned the room slowly, not judgmentally, gratefully, too gratefully. Leah noticed it but didn't understand. Not yet. Another foreshadowed thread tightening quietly around them. For hours he slept, not like someone napping, like someone escaping a nightmare, like someone whose body had been running from something for too long. The rain outside softened. Night deepened. And Leah found herself sitting on the floor beside him, watching his chest rise and fall, wondering what pain carved itself into his bones. No one sleeps like that unless they've lost something they can't speak of. Her mind drifted to her own childhood foster homes, nights in the back seat of her aunt's car, eating dry cereal without milk, studying under streetlights when electricity got cut off. She knew what loss felt like. She knew survival. Maybe that's why she saw him differently. At dawn, she made noodles with the last food she had. When he woke, she pushed the bowl toward him. "Eat," she insisted. He lifted the spoon with shaky hands. "You shouldn't waste your food on me." "It's not wasting," she whispered. "It's helping." He paused, eyes filling with something fragile. "You're the first person to say that to me in a long time." She smiled gently. "That just means the world's been wrong." But something in his reaction made her chest tighten. He flinched at kindness. No one flinches like that unless they've fallen from somewhere very high. She didn't know it yet, but she had invited a billionaire into her dorm room. A man running from betrayal so deep it shattered. Him. A man whose world was far too big for her tiny room. And destiny had just seated them side by side. Daniel stayed longer than he intended. Each day melted into the next, softening into a routine neither of them said out loud, but both felt in the quiet gestures that stitched their worlds together. Laya woke early for class, leaving him a small bowl of oatmeal when she had enough to spare. She returned late from her library shift, finding him asleep on the floor or awake and sitting against the bed frame with a blanket wrapped around him like armor he didn't know how to remove. He didn't talk much, not about himself, not about his past, but she felt the weight he carried like a shadow sitting beside him. One night, the campus power went out. Too much rain had drowned one of the old transformers again. The dorm hallways buzzed with panicked voices and hurried footsteps, but Leia's room remained still. Only a single candle flickered on her desk, painting soft gold across the walls, the floor, and Daniel's face. He sat on the blanket, knees drawn up, staring at the flame. The light reflected in his eyes like memories he could no longer outrun. Laya watched him carefully, her textbooks forgotten, her chest tightening with a curiosity wrapped in concern. "You don't talk about your past," she said softly. "But all of this, the nightmares, the flinching, the silence, something happened, didn't it?" He didn't respond at first. His jaw tightened, his shoulders stiffened, his fingers pressed into his palms like he was trying to hold himself together. Finally, he exhaled, long and tired. "I lost everything." The words struck the room like a stone thrown into still water. He didn't look at her when he continued. Maybe it was easier to speak to the flame. "I didn't have parents," he said, "not in the way most people do. My father disappeared before I was born. My mother died when I was 10. Foster homes, shelters. It was all I knew. So when I finally built something of my own, when I had a chance to create a life I never had, I built it with everything in me." Laya swallowed, watching him closely. "I started my first company in college," he said. "A tiny tech idea I thought would go nowhere. But it grew. I grew. Investors trusted me. Partners relied on me. My company became my entire life, my identity, my family." His voice thinned, and that's what made it easy for them to take. Laya leaned forward slightly. "Them?" He nodded once. "My business partner, someone I called a brother. We built everything together. But greed changes people. Money changes them. Influence consumes them." His throat tightened. He forged documents, transferred assets, manipulated contracts, stole years of work, stole my company, stole my future. Laya's mouth fell open. That's impossible. How could someone?" "Because I trusted him," Daniel whispered. "And trust is the sharpest blade." He closed his eyes for a moment, and she saw the pain ripple through him raw, remembered, unresolved. When it all came crashing down, the legal battle started. High stakes, federal courts, corporate lawsuits, headlines, the kind that ruin people. My lawyers told me to disappear, to stay quiet, to stay out of sight. The press turned everything upside down. Reporters outside my door, cameras everywhere, rumors, lies, noise. He exhaled shakily. So I walked away, not permanently, just long enough to let the law take its course. long enough to survive. His voice lowered, almost a whisper. But hiding strips you. It takes not just your money or your name, it takes the part of you that believes you're still human. Laya's heart cracked in a way she didn't expect. She understood now why his gratitude always sounded too heavy, why his silence felt like armor, why he looked at the world like it once belonged to him, and then didn't. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "No one deserves that. No one." His gaze lifted to hers for the first time since he began speaking. His eyes glistened not with self-pity, but with a pain he had buried long and deep. "You're the first person to show me kindness in months," he said. "Everyone else looks at me like I'm trash, like I'm disposable. You're not," she said firmly. "Not even close." Something shifted then, a fragile, unspoken thread pulling them closer. Not romance, not yet, but understanding, recognition, a sense that two broken paths had collided for a reason neither of them could name. Days passed. Daniel grew stronger. His posture straightened, his voice steadier, his skin regained its color. But with every improvement, something else grew too, an invisible countdown ticking inside him, a tension under his ribs, a fear that he didn't belong here, in her small room, in her simple world. And Laya felt it, because every time she laughed, he watched her with something like longing. Every time she handed him a bowl of noodles, his gratitude came with sadness. Every time he said thank you, his voice carried an ache as if he knew he couldn't stay. One morning, Laya woke to quiet. Too quiet. The blanket on the floor was folded neatly, her hoodie carefully placed on her desk. The corner where he slept looked painfully empty. No note, no goodbye. Just absence, hollow and cold. Her throat tightened as she touched the folded fabric. A strange grief expanded inside her chest, heavier than she expected. She had only known him for a few weeks, but the room felt wrong without him, as if the heartbeat of the space had walked away with him. He left, she whispered to herself, voice cracking. But she didn't know he hadn't left her. He had left to become himself again, and destiny was already pulling him back toward her. The afternoon sun hung pale and tired above the campus, its light weak against the sharp bite of winter. Laya walked slowly along the pathway behind the library, her backpack weighing more than usual, not because of the books inside, but because of the emptiness she had been carrying since Daniel disappeared. She tried telling herself it was silly. He was a stranger. She owed him nothing. He owed her nothing. And yet, the silence he left behind felt too personal, too deliberate, like a door closed in her face without explanation. Her thoughts circled endlessly. Had she made him uncomfortable? Did she ask too many personal questions? Did he feel pressured staying in her tiny room? Each question wormed deeper into her chest. She took a breath, tightening her grip on her backpack strap, trying to make her heartbeat steady again. She still had an exam to study for, a scholarship evaluation meeting looming over her, and rent due for her dorm space. Life did not pause because her world felt shaken. But as she stepped out from behind the library, building and onto the main campus walkway, a sudden shift in the air made her freeze. The low hum of a powerful engine, the sharp gleam of polished metal, the presence, intense, commanding, out of place. A black Rolls-Royce swept onto the curb beside her. Her breath stopped. The door opened smoothly, quietly, too quietly for a world she belonged in. The man who stepped out made her heart drop straight to her knees. Daniel, but not the Daniel she knew. Not the man with torn clothes, shaking hands, or weary eyes. This Daniel looked like he had stepped out of another universe. His beard was trimmed, clean and sharp. His clothes, an impeccably tailored charcoal suit, hugged him like it was made for his skin alone. His shoes gleamed. His posture rose tall, confident, unmistakably powerful. And his eyes were the same, soft and warm, but carrying a depth she hadn't been able to name before. Laya stumbled backward, breathless. "Did Daniel?" Students stopped in, their tracks. Whispers erupted. Phones lifted discreetly. Daniel stepped toward her with a gentleness that clashed with the luxury surrounding him. "Laya," he said softly. "I'm sorry. I left too suddenly." Her throat tightened. "You look different." A small smile tugged at his lips. I need to show you something. He gestured toward the open car door. Her feet felt like stone as she approached. When she stepped inside, the interior smelled of leather and quiet wealth, nothing like the life she knew. A tablet sat on the seat. Frozen on the screen was a headline with his face beneath it. Daniel Coleman, billionaire tech genius, vanishes during corporate takeover. Her pulse hammered painfully. He swiped to the next article. Legal war ends, Coleman regains full ownership of his empire. She shook her head slowly, hand flying to her mouth. No, that can't be you. That's not Daniel. Is this real? Yes, he said gently. Billionaire? Tech? Empire? You? Her voice cracked in disbelief. He nodded once, calm, steady. The legal battle ended yesterday. I got everything back. The world tilted beneath her. Her knees felt weak, her breath unsteady. She stared at him like she was looking at a stranger who had swallowed the man she knew. Why? Why didn't you tell me? She whispered. Because I wasn't him when you found me. He said, I wasn't a billionaire. I wasn't a CEO. I wasn't anything. I was a man who had lost everything, and I didn't know if I would ever get it back. He took a step closer, lowering his voice, letting vulnerability unravel in every word. When I left your room, it was because I finally got the call, the final ruling. The court sided with me. The assets, the company, the patents, all restored. He swallowed hard, but the moment I stepped back into my world, the first person I thought about was you. Her heart clenched painfully, achingly. Me? She whispered. You sheltered me when you had nothing. He said, you fed me when you barely ate. You gave me warmth when my world was cold. You looked at me like I was still human. His voice shook, something she had never heard from him. Laya's eyes burned as emotion surged through her chest. But you didn't owe me anything, she whispered. His gaze softened. I know, but I want to give you something. He reached into the car and pulled out a sealed university envelope. With your scholarship ending soon, he said, you're at risk of losing your housing. So I talked to the university board. I made some contributions, donations. He placed the envelope in her shaking hands. She opened it slowly. Her breath stopped. Full academic sponsorship, tuition paid, housing secured, monthly stipend, 4-year guarantee. Signed by the Coleman Foundation. Her knees nearly buckled as she clutched the letter. Daniel, I can't accept this. It's the smallest thing I can do, he said. But that's not all. Her heart fluttered, wild and terrified. He stepped closer, his voice lowering, trembling with raw honesty. You didn't just save my life. Laya, you reminded me what it feels like to be seen, to be cared for, to be alive. He paused, swallowing, and I haven't felt peace since the day I lost everything until I met you. Wind moved through the courtyard, lifting her hair, brushing against their silence. She felt the world shrinking around them, pressing them into a moment too big for her chest. Daniel, what are you asking me? She whispered. He breathed out shakily. A chance, he said softly. Just one. Let me walk beside you. If you'll let me. Her eyes burned. Because behind the billionaire, behind the suit, behind the luxury, she saw the man she sheltered, the man who had slept on her dorm floor, the man who thanked her for oatmeal, the man who flinched at kindness, the man whose past was stitched with pain. And she realized she didn't want him to walk away again. Not now. Not ever. She tightened her grip on the envelope. Her voice trembled. Daniel. Her answer caught in her throat. Not because she didn't know it, but because her life was about to change, and she felt it. For a moment, Leia couldn't speak. The world spun too fast, like her life was flipping itself inside out in the middle of the campus walkway. Students kept glancing as they passed by, whispering to each other, trying to figure out who she was and why a billionaire in a private Rolls-Royce was standing inches from her, waiting for her to breathe. But Daniel didn't rush her. He didn't push. He simply held her eyes with a softness she had never seen from anyone before, not even in the years she spent in foster homes, not even from the families that claimed to care for her. His softness felt like something rare, precious, something born from the ashes of everything he'd survived. Her throat tightened. "Daniel," she said again, her voice trembling like thin glass. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything yet," he murmured. "Just let me explain." He gently motioned toward the inside of the car, not forcefully, almost shyly, as though he was asking permission to show her a part of himself he had never let anyone see. With hesitant steps, Laya climbed into the back seat. The leather was warm, the air smelled faintly of cedar and something clean, expensive. Daniel slid in beside her, leaving just enough space so she didn't feel crowded, but close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating off him. As the car pulled away from the curb, her heart thudded faster. "Where are we going?" she whispered. "Somewhere quiet," he said. "Somewhere we can talk." The city outside blurred through the tinted windows, streetlights, students, buildings she knew by heart. The deeper they drove into the northern part of town, the more unfamiliar the scenery became. Towering complexes, glittering glass buildings, streets lined with restaurants she could never afford. But when the car smoothly stopped in front of a tall building, sleek, modern, glowing with soft lights, her breath caught. "Daniel," she whispered. "Is this my penthouse?" He finished softly. "Well, one of them." Her mouth parted in shock. Before she could react, the door opened, and a man in a dark uniform bowed slightly. "Welcome back, Mr. Coleman." Daniel nodded politely, but his attention stayed on her alone. "Come with me," he said gently. Laya stepped out, feeling painfully out of place. The marble floors shone beneath her worn shoes. The gold elevator seemed to judge every thread of her thrift store jacket. And yet, Daniel didn't treat her like she didn't belong. He walked beside her, shoulders relaxed, eyes soft. When they reached the penthouse, the doors opened onto a space that didn't look real. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a skyline that stretched forever, art pieces worth more than her entire scholarship, a kitchen gleaming with stainless steel, a living room bigger than the entire dorm floor she lived on. She froze at the threshold. "Daniel, I can't be here," she said breathlessly. "This world, it's not mine." "Maybe not," he said softly, "but it doesn't mean the door is closed to you." Her chest tightened. "I don't want to feel like I'm stepping into something I don't deserve." He turned toward her fully, his expression earnest, serious. "Laya, listen to me." He reached out, gently taking her hand, not to pull her but to anchor her. "I didn't bring you into this world for you to feel small. I brought you because you saw me when the world made me feel invisible." His voice softened to something fragile. "You saw me when I was broken, when I had nothing. You shared your food, your space, your warmth. You protected my dignity when I had none left." He swallowed hard. For the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. A tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. "And now," he continued, "I want the chance to give you what no one gave me. Stability, safety, a future. Not because you helped me, not because I feel indebted, but because I want you in my life." "Daniel," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I don't know how to fit into all this." "You don't have to figure it out today," he said gently. "You don't have to figure it out alone." Silence stretched, warm and trembling between them. He stepped closer, his hand rising slowly, waiting for her permission before brushing a tear from her cheek. "I'm asking for one chance," he murmured. "Just one. Let me walk with you. At your pace. Only if you want it." Her heart pounded painfully as she stared at him, the billionaire in a penthouse, the homeless beggar in a freezing alley, the stranger who slept on her dorm floor, the man whose past was carved with betrayal, the man who had somehow stitched himself into her world. She felt the truth rising inside her like a wave. He hadn't changed. He had simply returned to who he was, and she realized she missed both versions of him, the broken man who needed warmth, and the powerful man who now needed her courage. She took a shaky breath. "You can walk with me," she whispered, "if you really want to." Relief washed over his face, gentle, genuine, overwhelming. He took her hands fully now, holding them like something precious. "I do," he breathed. "More than you know." The skyline shimmered behind them. Her future, once uncertain, fragile, dangling by a failing scholarship, opened like a new horizon. His future once stolen, shattered, buried in legal battles finally felt whole again. And as they stood in the quiet glow of the penthouse, Laya realized something she never expected. The homeless man she sheltered had found home in her, and the billionaire she never knew was offering her something she thought she'd never deserve. A chance, a choice, a life, and maybe, eventually, a love.